Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free. Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free.
Happy Easter, everybody. Welcome to a wonderful day of new beginnings. This talk is actually a marriage of the last week's talk in the spring equinox, and touched by the sun as we celebrate what this season really has to offer. As we talked last week, we talked about the cycles of the sun, the cycles of our solar system, how we ascend into the light and descend to the darkness, all as a cycle of life. And in each and every one of us, we have this same cycle. And all the different masters that we talked about last week, their lives represented these cycles. We talked about the tug of war within ourselves and within society of that good and evil, or light and dark, and all the things perceived within that. We talked about facing our own betrayals inside and the death that must happen inside for us to be able to arise anew. And I kind of left us in a place of death. And I did that on purpose because I wanted us to reflect into the betrayals that we had in our lives, the denials that we may have had within ourselves, that we wanted to on purpose let die so that we can be born anew. Now, I've said this before and I will always say this. My name is Pasqualino. In Italian, it means Little Easter. It means that every day is a new beginning for me, and that the Ino part is little, and the Pasqual part means Easter, so that today is my namesake day. And all of the Pasqualinos, and my sister was going to be here, but I wish that gift to my brothers and sisters and all the Pasquals and Pasqualinos and to every one of us, because what it represents to me as the day of this day, that every single day has the opportunity for us to have a little new beginning. So sometimes I have to remind myself that as I'm writing my own name, that I don't have to necessarily wait to this spring equinox to do that. But when we come to a power place or a power day, and that's what all the equinoxes represent, a power day for us to really be able to get into those moments, seek the power that the earth and in the 3D cosmos still offer us with all that wonderful energy coming at us, so that we can live anew. To many of the ancient civilizations before the Roman times, this was the new year. This was the place of the new beginning, and it really kind of makes more sense that we're doing a new year now than right in the middle of a winter solstice, which is what we as Americans and as Europeans and most of the world honor. That's the time of the new year. So this is going to be less about those resolves and resolutions that we make, and a time for new beginning. Now, the word Easter comes from a place, and I've talked last week about all the different gods, all the different men that were the heroes of yesteryear and yesterday. We talked about Jesus, we talked about Mithras, Osiris, Dionysus. All these people had the same story of the virgin birth, the passion, the death, the betrayal, and then the resurrection. But the name Easter originated with the names of an ancient goddess, Eostre. She was the great mother goddess of the Saxon people in Northern Europe. Similarly, the Teutonic dawn goddess of fertility was known variously as Ostare, Ostara, Ostern, Eostra, Eostre, Eoster, Istra, Easter, Austrun, and Ausus. Her name was derived from the ancient word for spring, Istre. Similar goddesses were known by other names in ancient cultures around the Mediterranean and were celebrated in the springtime. So as we talked about all those men, I knew all these women existed, and I wanted to save it for today because what they represented was fertility in this new beginning. Aphrodite, Cytherea, Lady of Cytherea, Cyprus, I don't speak some of these languages, so forgive the pronunciations. Ashtoreth from ancient Israel, Astarte from ancient Greece, Demeter from Mycenae, Hathor from ancient Egypt, Ishtar from Assyria, Kali from India, and Ostara, a Norse goddess of fertility. All these were the women, the goddesses, the ones that brought fertility, the ones that gave the Easter that we celebrate its name. All these women were powerful women, and they were empowered with their own divinity. They were goddesses and looked at as goddesses of new beginnings, of fertility. All these are the history of where we have this holiday, Easter. Now, some of the names that we have been given and the alternatives that the different languages brought into the Jesus world, into the Christian world, Alba means white. Alba also means sunrise. And as the Germans and Germanic names, which I said over here a moment ago, Ostern, that is where the Germanic language became Easter, and that is something that we have celebrated to this day. Now, all these goddesses, like I said, represented new life, new fertility. But as we came into the Christian age, Jesus became that for us. As the times of Osiris and Isis and all the gods and goddesses of yesterday, in our lineage, in our understanding, even though it's been 2,000 years, this is the master that we have most followed in this Western culture. But his name meant the enlightened one. That is all part of who he was, the Christ, the anointed one, bringing the light, another solar hero. But as early Christianity emerged, one of the symbols that was used was that of the phoenix. And this is a story I found about the phoenix. I'm going to read you a little story, and then we'll talk about more in a little bit. One day in the beginning of time, the sun looked down and saw a large bird with shimmering feathers. They were red and gold, bright and dazzling, like the sun itself. The sun called out, "Glorious phoenix, you shall be my bird and live forever." Live forever? The phoenix was overjoyed to hear these words. It lifted its head and sang, "Sun, glorious sun, I shall sing my songs for you alone." But the phoenix was not happy for long. Poor bird, its feathers were far too beautiful. Men and women and children were always chasing it, trying to trap it. They wanted to have some of those beautiful shiny feathers for themselves. "I cannot live here," thought the phoenix, and it flew off towards the east, where the sun rises in the morning. The phoenix flew for a long time, and then came to a faraway hidden desert where no humans lived. And there the phoenix remained in peace, flying freely and singing its songs of praise to the sun above. Almost 500 years passed. The phoenix was still alive, but it had grown old. It was often tired, and it had lost much of its strength. It couldn't soar so high in the sky, nor fly as fast or far as it could when it was young. "I don't want to live like this," thought the phoenix. "I want to be young and strong." So the phoenix lifted his head and sang, "Sun, glorious sun, make me young and strong again." But the sun didn't answer. Day after day the phoenix sang. When the sun still didn't answer, the phoenix decided to return to the place where it had lived in the beginning and asked the sun one more time. It flew across the desert, over the hills, green valleys, and high mountains. The journey was long, and because the phoenix was old and weak, it had to rest along the way, picking up different herbs and spices that it found. So each time it landed, it collected pieces of cinnamon bark and all kinds of fragrant leaves. It tucked some in among its feathers and carried the rest in its claws. When at last the bird came to the place that had once been its home, it landed on a tall palm tree growing on the side of a mountain. Right at the top of the tree, the phoenix built a nest with the cinnamon bark and lined it with fragrant leaves. Then the phoenix flew off and collected some sharp-scented gum called myrrh, which has been seen oozing out of a nearby tree. The phoenix made an egg from the myrrh and carried the egg back to the nest. Now everything was ready. The phoenix sat down in its nest, lifted its head, and sang, "Sun, glorious sun, make me young and strong again." This time the sun heard the song. Swiftly it chased the clouds from the sky and stilled the winds and shone down on the mountainside with all its power. The animals, the snakes, the lizards, and every other bird hid from the sun's fierce rays, in caves and holes under shady rocks and trees. Only the phoenix sat upon its nest and let the sun's rays beat down upon its beautiful shiny feathers. Suddenly there was a flash of light. Flames leaped out of the nest, and the phoenix became a big round blaze of fire. After a while, the flames died down. The tree was not burnt, nor was the nest, but the phoenix was gone. In the nest was a heap of silvery gray ash. The ash began to tremble and slowly heave itself upward. From under the ash there arose up a young phoenix. It was small and looked sort of crumpled, but it stretched its neck and lifted its wings and flapped them. Moment by moment, it grew until it was the same size as the old phoenix. It looked around, found the egg made of myrrh, and hollowed it out. Then it placed the ashes inside and finally closed up the egg. The young phoenix lifted its head and sang, "Sun, glorious sun, I shall sing my songs for you alone, forever and ever." When the song ended, the wind began to blow, the clouds came scuttling across the sky, and the other living creatures crept out of their hiding places. Then the phoenix, with the egg in its claws, flew up and away. At the same time, a cloud of birds of all shapes and sizes rose up from the earth and flew behind the phoenix, singing together, "You are the greatest of birds, you are our king." The birds flew with Phoenix to the temple of the sun that the Egyptians had built in Heliopolis, city of the sun. Then the phoenix placed the egg with the ashes inside on the sun's altar. "Now," said the phoenix, "I must fly alone." And while the other birds watched, it flew off to the faraway desert. The phoenix still lives there, but every 500 years, when it begins to feel weak and old, it flies west to the same mountain. There it builds a fragrant nest on the top of a palm tree, and there the sun once again burns it to ashes. But each time, the phoenix rises up from those ashes, fresh and new and young again. There's many, many stories I found, and this one just kind of vibrated with me. It was fun. It was playful. There's a lot of different history of the phoenix, but as I spoke a little while ago, the early Christian church, the phoenix was the symbol. And so many different things in our lives, we have different symbols for awakening, for arising. And as we look at Phoenix rising and out of the ashes and out of the dust, we must understand that this is another lesson, this is another place that all these masters were trying to teach us, that today represents a new beginning for us. They all have their unified story in the betrayal and death. As you looked at in this story, the phoenix itself was being betrayed by the humans for just wanting their plumage. How many times have we been chased by people just wanting the shiny things that we have, or the things within us that might be alluring to them? Sometimes we've had to go away in our own place, die that death, have that shamanistic death, have that death of the Christ, the Osiris, the different Christs of the past, so that we can be born anew. And that is what today is about. Today is about new beginnings. There is one constant thing in the universe, and what is that? Change. It's the only thing in the cosmos that is ever, ever, ever going, and it's the only thing that stays the same. We have to embrace change if we want to be in our own selves and evolve. One of the things within us, as Jesus was called the great Redeemer, is it's time to be able to redeem that. It's time to be able to cash in that ticket and say, yes, I want in. It's like even when I was still Catholic and would have a lot of fundamental Christian friends that wanted to believe in the sin part of it. There's a lot of the fire and brimstone and things like that. And I would always have these debates with them and say, well, by virtue of your own belief system, you're contradicting, because Jesus' whole life was about freeing the world from sin. And as some of the translations of sin in Jesus' language and day, what he was meaning was about ripe and unripe. So they were really still stuck in being unripe. And I'm like, by virtue of our own belief systems, just with Jesus himself, he was here to free us, to let us redeem within us the way in. I am the way, the truth, and the light. Always in. Everything he talked about, everything the masters before talked about, was a place of going within and having that redemption within. But are we going to do it? As the story of Phoenix is reminding us the same thing. It's talking about out of the ashes we arise. How many times have we just seen things in our life just go up in flames? We've even said it as an expression. Ahomatakwiasan, and so it is. Let it be in flames if that's what is. Sometimes we've had to look at the things in our life and we're holding on to it so much that it creates disease and illness within us. We've done all the different wonderful series of Handbook to Higher Consciousness, which we'll be starting the class tomorrow, by the way, for those who have signed up, so we can invite ourselves to go in deeper and deeper and understand where our own consciousness has kept us from the death. Sometimes we're so afraid to die because we think it's going to be a mortal death, and it's not a mortal death. We're still here walking the planet. You can reincarnate many, many times while you're still walking the planet in this body. I've reincarnated a few times as Mark. because I evolved within myself, and I had to let something die to be able to do that. And it comes with grief, it comes with tears, it comes with a ceremony within yourself that you must hold sacred, I must hold sacred if I want to move on to the next moment. But it's about allowing it too. It's about realizing that within every single one of us is an opportunity for a Pasqualino, for a little new beginning. Every single day we are offered this. Every single morning when the sun rises and we face the east and we say, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being alive today. When I was a little kid, I made this little song up, and I was just so happy, such a happy-go-lucky little kid. And I'd sing it in the shower all the time, and it was just, thank you for being alive. Thank you for this day. Thank you for everything that's going to happen to me. Even though some of the things that happened to me as a child brought me a lot of sadness. I had difficulties. We all have our difficulties of life. We've all had the crosses to bear. Those are some of the things that we talk about, the passion of the Christ, especially the part where we see him walking and walking and walking with the burden of the cross on him. He did this for a reason. This story was for a reason. It was for us to understand the burdens within us and to be able to rise above this. As the symbol of the phoenix was the early Christian symbol, as they married the pagan holidays and the Christian holidays, they wanted everybody on board. Remember, Christianity wasn't legal until Constantine, like 300 years after Jesus was even hanging around the planet. These were about religions. What we want to embrace is the messages from them, and the messages that he and the other masters before him and all these other goddesses that ne'er get talked about because it's been mostly a patriarchal society, has been about this fresh start, about this new beginning. And I'm nowhere in my book at all, which is great. It is good because it lets me know I'm in the moment. As we are all here in this moment, we have an opportunity to change. We have an opportunity to change as a community as well. As Becky was praying into the tithe and doing some of the announcements, and we were talking about just the pod itself, Ahomatakwiasin, if we have to die to be reborn, then allow it. And some of that has happened in some ways, that we've seen so many people come and go. We've seen people of the past leave for whatever reason. Bless them. Let them be. Let them have their changes and allow us to have ours. We have an opportunity, again, every single day for a new beginning within ourselves. But can you allow the death to occur? This is what the life of Jesus represented. And if this man walked the planet as the story went, and he did all those things as the story goes, and you embrace and love him, wouldn't you think you would honor him the most by the new beginning? Wouldn't you think that our hearts would be most open by allowing what he gave to us to be our salvation, to be our redemption, to be that immortality that we all seek? We know that scientifically energy just simply changes form. And as we're in this cosmic dance with each other, we have a better understanding in the new thought of even the molecules within us shift themselves and move on to something else. But I'm still here walking a planet, so that means other molecules must have came on board. All of this is just energy. And as the cycles of the planets have been documented and looked at and studied from ancient civilizations, they were marrying all the things that they saw in the cosmos with all these spiritual lessons. As I talked about last week, and the Sphinx itself faces east to the rising sun. All these different ancient glyphics and ancient sites that we have all have a solar commonality. They all face east. They all face a new beginning. They all understand that there's got to be a cycle within them. What about the cycles within ourselves? I'm always challenging us to go inward. We say as part of our affirmations, we're exploring our humanity and divinity so as to create a light of truth in a world of peace. What about the world of peace and the light of truth within me? As Becky was saying, to look into the mirror, to see that light all the time. Never pay attention to what misgivings or missteps that you may have made. So many times I've seen people not get up and go to the mirror because they feel that they don't have any green energy to put into the tithing. It breaks my heart, because you are the gift. As much as we want to thrive and want abundance here, you are the gift. Understand that your redemption is by looking in your own eyes and seeing that and recognizing the Christ light within you. And knowing that everything within us is all representative of all these lessons that we have, so that we can evolve and change and constantly change. I don't need or want to change sometimes. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to change sometimes, but I do need to. Sometimes the biggest thing that's in my way is my fear, and the fear of what's going to happen next, and the fear of what if it doesn't work out. Well, you know what? There's been a lot of things in my life that haven't worked out as much as they haven't worked out for each and every one of us. It's time to breathe into those moments. As we talked about the meditation today, I asked what new beginnings did people want. To just go within, ask your higher self, ask your deeper wisdom, ask that people within you, what new beginnings are they truly wanting and desiring that maybe they haven't even been aware of? And then in the second part of the meditation, I invited us to discover what we had to let go of to do that. Where do we have to let our life crumble and just have it be? Sometimes I've resisted the crumble and it was crumbling anyway. It just was taking longer and it was more painful. When we look at the story of the phoenix, it did it from a place of joy because it wanted to live and be strong and live forever. We do live forever. Our energy will keep going on. The spirit and the essence of you is already here, and it's in me and it's in you, and we all share it together all the time. And that's what Jesus and other masters taught us, that we are the light, we are the anointed ones, we are the Christ. As we did the Christmas solstice of suns and the Christmas ceremony, the people who attended that day, we all anointed each other, saying, I am the Christ. I am the anointed one. It is my opportunity today and every single day to wake up and face the sun. In the Native American traditions, eagle and hawk represent the east window, the east gate. They bring to us the illumination of everything that was thought of in the West, which is where our dreams come from and the prayers of healing. Understanding that all our different cultures have all these different lessons that will point towards our own salvation. It doesn't matter what flavor you want to be. It doesn't matter what religion you even want to be in if you still choose to be in a religion. Under the laws of attraction and deliberate creation, what you believe will be the magic that works in your life. If you want to hold Jesus in your heart as the Savior, then let him be that for you. Let his life mean something more than a story that has been created religions that has created control of other people. He taught us of self-enlightenment. He taught us to go within us. Go within. Let the change happen. What do you want in your world? What new beginnings do you want? I'm asking each and every one of you to pray upon that within yourself this week. I invite that. I'm constantly looking at myself and looking at all the different things that I've let go of this last year. Some of them holding on as tight as I can until it felt like Spirit was yanking it right out of my hands. Sometimes we have to fall to our knees. Our humility and grace will come back in. You know, the word grace has been just coming to me more and more lately, and understanding what grace really is. And sometimes when I just allow these things to happen for me, that is what grace is. When I was a very young, or well, not so young too, Catholic boy, I was very devout in saying, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. But let me just stand on the line, full of grace. Because that's the gift that she offered to us too. As the story went, she was such a pure in heart that God chose her to bear the child of Jesus that was going to be one of the solar heroes, one of the sons of transcendentalism and transcending for us. One of the sons of history that was going to bring us to our own enlightenment. All of this is a place that we can go. And so many different things in life we're looking at. It's like, but I've stumbled. I've fallen. And it doesn't matter how many times you've stumbled. It doesn't matter how old you are. We have more in ourselves to be happy for and to be grateful for than to be sorry for. When we truly look into our lives and look into all the blessings that we have, truly take a step in and look at the wonder of our life. I look at just at nature sometimes and the spring equinox and everything it brings and all the different things that are growing and coming to life. And I see it in nature, and I don't see them grieving the death. Now, sometimes we can see animals in life like elephants. When an elephant in all the ridiculous ivory hunting that's going on, we see the sentient being within that elephant as other elephants gather and mourn that living creature that just now passed. There's going to be a place for mourning. There's going to be a time for us. In everything in life, there's going to be a time for rebirth and a time for death. Even in the Old Testament, there's to everything there is a season. Well, this is the season of rebirth. This whole equinox, this whole time of year represents for us a way to be able to go inside and let all the darkness that the winter brought come back into the light. Are you willing to do that? Are you going to do that for yourselves? Are you allowing yourselves to have that gift, to have the ticket that says, I want in? We all have it. Sometimes you might have misplaced it. Which pocket did I put it in? Oh, it's right here. It's just here. I'm inviting us all to embrace the season, to look within ourselves and know that we have an opportunity to arise from our own ashes, to like a phoenix flying out and soaring to the sky. Whatever life is bringing you, everybody has a different journey, and all of our journeys are blessing the other journeys. So as Becky goes through something that Teresa didn't, and Suzanne goes through something that I didn't, they're all giveaways for each other. Because as we blend with each other and talk openly and share our hearts, we enrich each other. We give each other salvation. The more you can look in my eyes and I can look in your eyes, we redeem each other, just simply with love. This is what it's all about. Even new thought, old thought, foreign thought, English thought, it doesn't matter. It's about this current moment of loving. Everything that Jesus and all these other masters brought was also a message of loving and to love thyself. Whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. It was talking about we are connected. We are all one. It wasn't just about you did it to him. You did it to him. When I sang the Catholic song when I was a little kid, I'm like, gosh, they were really mean to Jesus. No, I did that to me. If I'm outwardly mad at you and being mean or angry with you, I've just been disrespectful and hurtful to myself. But if I'm loving and giving you a blanket when you're cold or giving you food when you're hungry, then I'm feeding myself. I'm clothing myself. That's what that lesson was about. Every day we have an opportunity to live this with whatever belief system that you hold, with whatever magic under the universe works for you. I invite you to use it, to turn it on, to allow yourselves to be the phoenix rising. Thank you. Home Taco House.
More minute of my life. I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste one more minute of my life. Y'all got the words? So next time around, sing it with me. Every step I take, with every heartbeat and every breath I breathe, I'm breathing for. It's sacred, so beautiful. Your precious presence as my life. I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste one more minute of my life. Every conversation is an opportunity to see the light of our shine as our divinity. It's sacred, so beautiful. Feel your precious presence as mine. I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste one more minute of my life. Sing it. Come on, come on, come on. have so much more to be grateful than to be sorry for. I have so much more to be grateful than to be sorry for. I have so much more to be grateful than to be sorry for. I have so much more to be grateful than to be sorry for. Oh, I don't care how old I am, how I stumbled down. I've got faith and good reason to let my spirit soar, like a phoenix thundering out of its dust to sing a song of truth. I'm not stuck inside illusion or the fantasy of youth. And I rise and I stand, I soar beyond the walls I build, and I roar like a distant mahalia singing to the Lord. I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste one more minute of my life. I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste one more minute of my life. I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste one more minute of my life. I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste one more minute of my life. I won't waste one more minute of my life. I won't waste one more minute of my life. Bless all